welcome to the second of probably 4 interviews and discussions about topics we discussed this morning in the Eclipse Modeling Symposium, Eclipse Summit Europe 2008. The second of these discussions is about textual modeling and storage format for textual models, and my guests are Jan Koehnlein and Sven Efftinge. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
And before we I shouldn't look in the camera. Okay. So before we get started with the actual topic, I guess those two guys should introduce themselves to the audience. So Jan, why don't you start?
Yeah, hello, I'm Jan Koehnlein. I'm working at itemis for about a year now, and I'm mainly involved with the development of the next generation of Xtext. So I have quite a modeling background, worked for other companies in the modeling sector before. I'm happy now at itemis. How about you, Sven?
Okay.
Are you happy too?
I'm happy as well, yes. My name is Sven Efftinge. I'm also at itemis. I'm leading the branch in Kiel, and I'm also involved in Xtext. I'm there the project lead, and doing a lot of stuff with Eclipse modeling and those things.
So who wants to give us a brief overview about what Xtext is? Not about the challenge, about how storing stuff, just the general overview.
Yeah.
Well, Xtext is an Eclipse-based tool set for textual DSLs. That means in Xtext you can just define a grammar in a very simple way. That grammar describes your DSL, and then you can use a very powerful code generator that generates Eclipse tooling for it. That is a full-fledged text editor. The stubs for a code generator, and an outlier grammar, because we're using outlier in the internal stuff for the parser, and an eCore model. So you get everything in one step, and this is really great, and I think this is one of the fastest way to get started with model-driven software development.
So and you said that there is a grammar you define, and there is also an ANTLIC parser. So is that only for the UI, or is the model actually also stored in the concrete syntax as a text file, or do you store the, how you want to call it, the semantic model or the tree or the AST?
Yes, it's a complete implementation of the EMF resource interface. With an EMF resource interface, you can load and save models from the concrete syntax to the object, the model in memory models. And with an Xtext resource, you have this concrete syntax you've defined for your DSL. So you can have these textual artifacts, and it's very small text files, and you can put all the EMF tooling on top of that.
So, but again, in contrast to, let's say, a model that you've created with GMF or with the tree view of that, that comes with EMF, you store not the abstract syntax but the concrete syntax as you type it literally.
Yes.
Okay, so and that was the discussion of this morning, right? Is this a good idea? Is it a good idea to store models in concrete syntax? Is it better to store them as abstract syntax and then project them? Or so why don't you give us a little bit of an overview about what the trade-offs are between storing things as concrete syntax and all these other alternatives that might be out there?
Okay, the main challenge with the traditional approach to store models in binary form or XMI form is that if the tool doesn't work for some reason, you have to look into the XMI, and I always had to do that when I worked with UML tools or all these things, and then you see all this noisy XML and the UUID references, and it's just not manageable. And I do want to have textual editing support. I'm very fast with Java development because JDT is so nice with all this tooling, and I don't want to use the mouse when modeling, because modeling is for me just writing code, another abstraction in the DSL. And so if I want to have a textual representation, what are the things I could do? I could have binary storage and then project textual representation from that. And this is very, very complicated, because I have to store the white space information somehow and all these things. What we do is just say, so that we do it like Java development tools. We have one primary concrete syntax for our DSLs, and then you can put all kinds of tooling on top of that. And this makes a lot of things much easier.
Such as?
Yeah, for example, users are really used to text editors. We have very good and understood editing patterns in text. That does not happen the same way in graphical editing, for example. If you just go to another tool, another graphical tool from your common one, then you are facing lots of problems and lots of things don't work the way they worked before, and it's quite slow. And this is just one thing. Another thing is we have well understood in the meantime how to put source code into code repositories and how to version that and how to do merging and diffing and all that stuff. And when you want to do that with a different kind of, let's say on the abstract level, users are like, well, they're not capable of understanding the abstract syntax of an UML model, for example. And
well, you'd have to provide specific tooling that gives you a concrete syntax projection of your merging.
And that is really, really difficult, and in most cases doesn't work.
Okay. So, but of course, I mean, nothing is for free in the world, right? So what's the disadvantage of storing things textually? I think about things like models, or the syntax needs to be parsable. So, you can only have references by name. You can't have any meta information behind things. So what are the trade-offs when doing it like that? And are those trade-offs a problem in practice? And if so, how do you solve it?
The main obvious trade-offs may be that people tend to think that having everything in a database or in a repository-like thing, you have all this meta information in it, and you can more easily do quick searches, like with some constraints on that, and everything's more integrated. But we see that all these things have been solved with, for instance, JDT, Java Development Tools, in Eclipse, and we just think it is solvable for any EMF element as well.
So what you're saying is that the modeling community should rather look at the modern IDEs, which behave almost like source code modeling environments, right?
Yes.
Than to look at, let's say, Rose or Rational Something or Magic Draw.
Exactly.
And that integrates much better into existing environments than buying a big heavyweight tool.
So, but to make this work, what do you need to do? I mean, you probably need some kind of index so you can search things efficiently, right? Or, I mean, what are the ingredients of making this article? What makes a modern IDE different from a text editor, right? So, what do you need to provide in addition to a nice editor to make this a scalable approach?
Okay, yeah, we just basically redevelop JDT for EMF models. So we say we have the workspace is a repository, right? And within the workspace there are arbitrary EMF models. Don't need to be in a xtext format. We just pass them because EMF has a common resource API to load EMF models, and then we index them and we look at the unified resource identifier, the global IDs. And we index them, and so we know what is in the workspace and what can be referenced and what is referenced from one model to another and all these things. And I think this is one major part. And the other is we want to have cool tool support for our DSLs. So
Control-Shift-T, finding any model element.
Support, and we want to have constraint checks.
Checks. Syntax highlighting, all that stuff.
Right, but that's again an editing thing that you just have with it, So the thing about scaling and making it the repository is a somewhat different question. Yeah. So the tooling you talked about isn't available yet. By which time and in which context will the stuff be available? Is it going to be part of Xtext and OEW, or is it going to be part of some more global Eclipse modeling thing?
Yeah, we are part of the Eclipse modeling project now, and so we are joining the Galileo release train, and we are planning our first official release within Eclipse for summer next year with Galileo.
Okay. And there will be a release of open architecture which includes all this nice stuff, not only Xtext but also EMF and Expand and everything people are used to.
Okay, so I guess this concludes the interview. Anything else you want to say before we close here?
Oh, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.